Hi, I'm Randy Williams, and in this second half, we're going to talk a little bit more about the advanced Chee or sticky hands of Wing Chun. Now, with the help of Sifu Ted Wong and Sifu Jeff Yamada, I'm going to be showing you a little bit more about the Lok Sao rolling hand cycle. We're going to be doing some Guo Sao combat attack combinations, and then we're going into some combat response chains, in which one partner attacks the other, and the second partner defends against that motion and reattacks, and that's just built into a chain. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to show you the basic two ways of changing from one relationship to the other in the Lok Sao cycle, the rolling hand cycle. So what's going to happen is, well, first of all, let's tell you what Lok Sao is all about. It's a reciprocal inward twisting forward energy drill where the two partners' arms cling together and drill energy back and forth, sort of throw the energy back and forth between each other. Now, there are two basic hand positions that you can have. One would be called the rolling arm, the rolling hand. And what that is going from bong and down to tan. From bong to tan. Okay, that's just like what we do in Silim Tao form. Bong sao, tan sao, bong sao, tan sao. So that's what we call the rolling hand because it rolls up and down. The other relationship that you could have, or the other position that you could be in, is called the riding hand. And I call it the riding hand because all it does is lay on the other person's hand and go up and down. So basically, at the bottom of the cycle, it hooks that person's hand and two fingers pinch. And at the top of the cycle, it flicks forward to send energy back towards the opponent or the partner. So it basically goes to perfect foot structure, just like what you have in Silim Tao form. And then it goes up and flicks forward. Now the way this works, let's just do it with a single pair of hands. Jeff will be the rolling hand, so he'll be going from tan up to bong. So his hand sort of has a forward drilling energy here. It kind of draws back and then drives forward. It kind of drives back and then forward. So the elbow is really stabbing forward. We use elbow power, which we call Jang Dai Lik. Jang Dai Lik is elbow power, right? The ability of the elbow to drive the hand forward. All right, now the riding hand is placed right over the other person's rolling arm, and at the top of the cycle, it does a little flick, kind of like what Liberace would do if he was with us here today. It gives a little sort of flick towards the opposite shoulder, as if your hand was all wet and was covered with water and you're throwing water on the guy's opposite shoulder. And what happens is it sends the energy back into his bong sao arm without me having to tense up. My muscles relaxed here and my wrist is very relaxed. So what happens is by flicking my wrist sideways, my power goes forward and Jeff's arm absorbs it. So that's what happens at the top of the cycle. Now at the bottom of the cycle, when he rolls down, my riding hand checks him. Three fingers kind of, they don't exactly grab, but they cling. And two fingers pinch together and point back towards myself, sort of at a 45-degree angle backwards. That checks Jeff's movement. So if for any reason he started to drop out and try something funny, I would sense it here with my fingers and I would know that I better do something, whatever that might be. So once again from position, what I want to do is, here at the bottom, I want to check with a little bit, not a lot of pressure, but just kind of a little bit of a squeeze with the three fingers and two pinched, which you'll recognize from the Silim Tao form here. In the Silim Tao form, three fingers are closed, two are pinched when you're going out with Fuk Sao. Now it's the same thing which I'm doing here. Okay? So basically what's going to happen is as Jeff rolls up, I go there. When Jeff rolls down, I come here and clamp on. Flick forward, clamp on. Flick forward, clamp like that. So this is what's going to happen. Now the trick is to be able to do this with both hands simultaneously yet independently. In other words, you're going to do two hand motions at the same time, but the two hands have to work independently of one another. Just because one hand has to cope with a change or some other thing that might happen, the other hand has to be able to do its normal job unaffected by whatever the first hand has to do. So it sounds a lot worse than it is. Well, actually, it's a lot worse than it sounds. Either way you look at it, it takes a high level of skill to be able to do it. Now, what we're going to do next is go into position where Jeff is going to put his riding hand on top of my rolling hand. So now, what you see now is my hand, my right arm, which is in bong sao here, is exactly what Jeff's hand is destined to become on the next cycle. See, now Jeff is in bong sao position, and I have the tan, which he had before. And then we'll roll again and return to the original position. You see how I have this little clamp here? These two fingers are pinched. This one's up in bong. And what you might not be able to see is that both my wrists are on the center line. So are both the Jeff's wrists. So it's not like our hands are spread apart. Our hands are right over one another on the center line. So we roll down and come up. And if you watch my high foot, this one here, At the top of each cycle, it shakes once, and at the bottom, it clamps on. Shakes once and clamps on. So that's the basic cycle. So initially, when you're first learning, don't worry about the switches. Just practice this. Make sure that your wrist of your bong sao arm does not cross over like that, because that'll cramp your position. Make sure that your fook sao hand doesn't, or rather your fook elbow doesn't stay out. So keep the fook in. Now, what you don't want is your elbow to drop out like this, because if you do, Jeff can come right underneath and nail me, see? So you want to keep it down. Now what I like to say is that I like to keep my forearm sort of vertical. See, the more my forearm is up, the easier it is for Jeff to come under or for him to come over the top. But if I sort of cross the T, so to speak, it's more difficult for him to come under or over because I got him covered at both sides, see? So that's why I like it to be parallel. So you want to keep that elbow in. Now the next thing that I want to do is I want to go into a switch called the tan switch, which is going to take me to the other riding and rolling hand position. Right now my right hand is in rolling hand position. My left is in riding hand position, and I want to change that from one side to the other. So what I do is from the bottom of the cycle, from the tan hand, which is here on the right, I drop out, and what Jeff does is he senses that coming, so he's going to take and become bong sao to cope with that change. And all the while his other hand is turning to tan as normal. Now at the bottom of the cycle, his tan sao will reciprocate, come right around and convert as his other hand drops down into tan position, and then we're ready to roll on the opposite side. So now we each have a left rolling arm and a right riding hand. So we've got both, and the relationship has changed from one side to the other. So the way that's going to look again on the other side is from the bottom of the cycle, I'm going to drop out, I'm going to circle to the outside, and Jeff is going to sense that and become bong while his other hand drops to tan. Then without losing a beat, he then drops out with his own as he drops his right hand into tan sao, and we cycle. Now what should happen is we shouldn't break the cadence. So when this switch actually takes place, it should just go boom, boom. So it's like roll, 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 switch, switch back, roll, 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 switch, switch back. So there's no slop. There's no slop in it. You don't want to have any slop in the timing. You want everything to go crisply so that when one switch goes, the other one follows without any break in timing. Right now the next switch is called fook switch. From the high fook sao, what I do is leave my right hand laying dead, it doesn't move, and my left hand scoops straight down. Jeff's hand will roll around and become fook as I roll up to bong sao, and then I will then do a tan switch to get back. So what happens is in the initial switch, I started it, Jeff finished it. But in this switch, I start it and I finish it. So Jeff is purely reacting in this case rather than changing back on me. So once again from the high fook, I would scoop down and become bong. Then my other hand would run right around to a tan switch and I'd be here. So to do this at speed, it takes actually 2 counts to do the first part as opposed to the other switch which only takes 1 count. So it'd be like scoop, bong, and then tan switch. So I'd be roll, 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 scoop, bong, tan switch. Roll, 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 scoop, bong, tan switch. So that's how it works. So it scoops, comes up, and comes around. And then I'm rolling. Now, at first it'll seem complicated for you, and you know, to get the idea it takes a little practice. But it'll finally come to a point where you can sit here and talk and look in a different direction, and just by feeling, you know right where Jeff's hands are at all times. So if you had to, you could come in without even looking. Next, I'm going to demonstrate with Jeff Yamada, who everyone knows, to a little bit of combat sticky hands combinations, what we call guo sao attacks from the roll. So I'll basically show you guys how to attack probably 7 or 8 ways from each of the 4 positions that are possible to attack from. Now what I mean by that is when we're rolling, there's basically 4 places from which you can attack. And beyond that, anything else is going to be a subtle variation of one of those 4. Now you can either attack from the tan. So my right hand right now is in tan. So there are attacks from the tan. You can attack from the bong. Jeff is now in bong position. You can attack from the high fook, which is what I am here. And we can attack from the low fook, which is what Jeff is there. So there are 4 basic ways to attack. Now, or I should say there are 4 basic positions to attack from. Now the first combination I'm going to show you are attacks from the tan sao position, or what I have on my right hand right now. So the first one I do is, it's called double hyun sao. I'm going to use a double hyun sao and Chang Dai Jam combination, which means a circling wrist into a low spade palm. Now, from the tan position on my first one, I'm going to drop out my tan sao hand and become a hook. Then I'm going to keep contact with Jeff's bong sao arm as I pivot and hit the body with the Chang Dai Jian. Then, keeping contact with that arm to check it, I'm going to then rehook that other arm and brace forward and hit again to the ribs a second time. So, at speed, this attack looks like this. I'm coming here, 1, 2. So, once again, at speed, I'm coming 1, 2. Now, when I do this, the footwork is, initially, as I spread, I go pivot, and then I retrap and I brace forward. So that's the first one. Now, secondly, we're going to come in with what's called kwak sao, which means spreading hand. Now, what I'm going to do here is come from the tan position and drop out in a similar way, but this time I'm just going to spread him apart. Now that I've got his hands spread, I'm just going to step in with what we call Xiang Chang Dai Jiang, or double spade palm, double low spade palm. So the footwork is just going to be to step in. Initially, I'm just going to go and spread, and then I'm going to step in with the hit. So at speed, I'm rolling, and I'm going to come across, spread them open, and hit. Right? Now, normally these combinations are done when you feel some sort of deficiency in your partner's structure. In other words, I don't just anyhow go. I wait till I feel something that tells me he's vulnerable to that particular thing. So if I feel that he's a little bit weak in that position, and his hand is already maybe kind of going out a little bit, that's when I want to help it and then go in. Right. Now the next one we're going to do is also built off the kwak sao, spreading hand, but instead of hitting with the hands, what I'll do is I'll spread and I'll give the kick, and then I'll plant trap hit. So the way that looks, again, in slow motion is from here, I drop out, spread, give a kick, holding out with my fingers, and then trap and hit. So at speed, that looks like this. I'm rolling, I spread, kick, hit. So left a little dust on Jeff's shirt, see? That was pretty close. Okay, now I come from here, spread, kick, and hit. Right. Next I'm going into what we call outside whip punch, Moi Fan Kun, outside whip. Now from the tan again, I'm going to drop out and lose contact. Then I'm going to turn around and whip punch, kind of inward deflecting his hit, or his hand, and then step in with a follow-up. So here what I'm going to do is, I'm going to come in, drop out, whip punch, and then hit with a step in. So I'm slow motion, drop out, give a punch, step in, and pak chan. Okay, now at speed, this is how it looks. Alright. Okay, next one we do is called tanda. So from the tan, once again, I'm going to run to what we call tanda, or tan and punch. So my tan sao hand here drops to the outside, and I step and face, then come in from the side and go into a headbutt to the temple. So I've been told that I give great headbutt. But what? I don't know. But in any case, from here, I'm coming in, around, hit, and then headbutt. So I'm here, from the tan, step and face, step in, hit, trap the neck, bang, headbutt to the temple. Right. So from here, my next one is, my tan sao hand is going to drop from the bottom, come right around and become pak as I step in and punch. Then I retrap and hit. So at speed, that one looks like this. Okay, one more time. At speed. Okay. Now, the next attack is gum sao from the tan position. So from here, from the tan, I'm going to drop out as if I was going to do a tan switch and press his hands trapped. Step in and punch, retrap and punch. So again, slow, I'm coming from the bottom. I'm pinning the hands, step in punch, and then retrap and punch. Now at speed, that's going to look like this. Okay. Now, these will be attacks from the bong position, which is my left arm. Now, from my left, the very first one I'm going to do is convert to what we call landa, pak chang, headbutt. Now, those of you that know this Chum Kyu form, which is the second form of Wing Chun, recognize the part where we go bong, lan, bong, lan. Okay? So it's bong sao, lan, bong, lan. Now that same motion is being put to work here because I'm in bong and now I'm in lan. And I'm stepping in and hitting. Okay? Once again, in slow motion, I'm coming in, lan, pak, hit. And at speed, that looks like this. Next, I'm going into a triple uppercut combination. So from the bong again, I go upwards, converting my right hand to Hyun Sao as I drop up with the uppercut. Then, my second one, I grab and do a second pivoting uppercut. Then I step in with a third uppercut, with a pak. Okay? So once again, oh, by the way, that comes from in the Chun Kyu form. If you remember the part where you go bong, uppercut. Just drop out from the bong. So here's what's happening. I'm in position. I feel Jeff's elbow out a little bit too much. So I step in, uppercut, uppercut, and third uppercut. Okay? I feel his elbows out, uppercut, uppercut, third uppercut. At speed, that looks like this. Okay. Next, my bong sao is going to scoop his arm out with what we call Hyun Da Chang Dai Jian, or circling hand, low spade palm strike. So from the position, I scoop, hit the body, and then from here, I'm just going to waist trap and go in with the second hit. So once again, from here, I scoop, hit, trap the body, and go in. At speed, that one's going to look like this. Okay, next, I'm going into what's called Heijang, or upward elbow strike. Similarly, when I feel Jeff's elbow out too much, I step in, bring in the upward Heijang elbow, keeping the Hyun Sao structure on the right, drop down on the chest with Chumjang sinking elbow, and then trap and boom, Gwaijang down on the sternum. Okay, so once again, slow motion. I'm going to step in and bring the elbow up, drive it down, and then come in with Gwaijang on the sternum. All right, at speed, that one's going to look like this. Okay. All right. Next, I'm going into what's called Pangang Sao, which means neck trapping hand. So from the bong, I reach in, sensing that Jeff's hand is not on center. I reach in, and then I'm going to step in and give an elbow to the head. So it's quite simple. And what I normally like to do with this one is reach in, hit, and then follow with the upward elbow. So it's kind of a big circle of the elbow. So once again, slowly, okay, I'm going to come in, trap, kwai, hey. Okay. Now at speed, that's going to look like this. The next combination we're going to go with from the bong sao position is what I call the triple hit. Now, what I'm going to do is a combination of Pangang Sao, headbutt, Chowkin, which is an uppercut, and Tai Sat, which is a knee strike. Then I'm going to fall back down into a shoulder butt to the head. So what I do is reach in, triple hit, and then shoulder butt. Now, slow motion, what I'm doing is I'm reaching in behind with my bong arm, coming in with the headbutt, knee, and punch all at once. Then I'm planting down between his feet and using a motion from the Siulim Tao form, stepping down, throwing my hand backwards to make my shoulder protrude, and butting his face with my shoulder. So, once again, the way that's going to look in slow motion is to reach in, triple hit, and shoulder butt. And at speed, that's going to come in and look like this. One more time at speed. I'm going to come in, 1, 2. Okay. Let me do that one more time. And one more time at speed. I'm going to go 1, 2. Okay. Right. Next, we're going into combinations from the high fooks out, which is this position right here. Now, from high fook, the first one I'm going to go into is going to be called Hang Da. You know, as in Elvis Presley, you ain't nothing but a... From here, Hang Da is coming in with a sweep and step forward with a trap hit. Right? So, from right here, we come with the Hang Sao, punch, step forward, Pak Da. So here we go. At speed, it looks like this. Hang and then hit. Now, another variation of that same motion would be to come here with the Hang Da and then go into the Heijang upward elbow strike. So in slow motion, that one from the high foot position sweeps down, becomes a trap, and headbutt. Now, it's good to use the neck trap after the Changjiang spade palm strike. In other words, here, if you come in with this hit, it's already ready-made to come right in and go in with the Heijang strike. Okay, next is what we call Ngoi Jat Da Fan Sao, which means outside jerking hand and chopping hand. So from the high foot position, I turn to outside jut, which jerks his hand forward. At the same time, I pivot into a chop. So my footwork was a pivot. Then from here I'm coming in with a step with the light leg here, and then the headbutt that I love so much. Now once again, I'm coming in with Muay Jet Dafan, Pak Chang, and headbutt. So at speed, that looks like this. And one more time. The next one I'm going to is called a shoulder butt, side shoulder butt, or seong bak, advancing shoulder. So from my high foot's out, I'm going to step forward and become a grab here as I step in and butt him with my shoulder. Then he's going to fall back, and I'm going to pull him right back like a ricochet into a punch. So once again, from the high foot, I become a grab, and I step in, drive my hand down. He bounces back, and I meet him with the punch. Now you recognize that position from Siu Lim Tao, the Cheen Gum Sao motion from Siu Lim Tao. It's the same thing I'm doing to Jeff, isn't it? Because from the high foot, I'm stepping in, bang. But if Jeff disappeared, there it is, Cheen Gum Sao. Okay? Now at speed, what that's going to look like is this. One more time. Okay. All right. Next I'm going to what's called Kao Da Chop King, or finger hooking block low punch. So from the high foot, I pull Jeff's arm to full extension and give a punch. Then I'm going to pivot into what's called Chum Q, an arm breaking motion. Then keeping contact with the front hand, I'm just going to step forward and give a diagonal punch to the face. So once again, I'm coming in, pulling to full extension here, and then moving in. Now at speed, that's going to look like this. And one more time, here, here, and there. Right. Next I'm going into Po Pai Jam, which is a double palm strike. So from my high foot, I scoop down, trap the hands, and come in for 2 hits. Once again, from the high foot, I'm coming to scoop, trap, and come in with 2 hits. So at speed, that looks like this. One more time. Here and there. Right. Right. And the next one from the high foot will be Muay Jet Fun once again like we did before. But rather than come in with the Pak Chang, I'm going into a reverse Pan Gang Sao neck trap. And I'm going to take a small step to get my weight up, drop the elbow on the spine. Then I'm using my palm to attack with an iron palm strike to the head, grabbing the hair, lifting him up to be finished with the uppercut. Okay, one more time. The way that's going to look is I'm going to lead in with the chop, bring him down, step up in, drop this, drop the hand, lift, and uppercut. So at speed, the way that's going to look is going to be like this. Okay, I'm only going to do that once. Now, I could also follow that up with a little bit different finish. In other words, I could, if I wanted to go here and then go to a knee, kick, knee, then go into the elbow. So to show you that one, it would be to go Muay Jet chop, trap, knee, kick, knee, and then drop the weight on the spine. Okay? Now, the last thing I'm going to do is show you some combinations from the low foot, which is this position right here. Now, the low foot sao is my favorite to attack from. There's more combinations possible with the low foot, so I'm going to show you about 10 of them. Now, the first one I'm going to go into is from the low foot, I'm going to pivot and chop. Step in, Pak Chang, and headbutt. This brings to mind an important point about sticky hands. When you do your initial attack off the roll, it's very important that if it's not necessary to step forward, you don't. Because what can happen is, if I were to step in right now and Jeff didn't defend, then I'd be wasting energy. I'm stepping forward and now I've cut my arc of my chop short, so not as much power, see? Whereas if I had kept back here and pivoted, I'd have a lot more arc to chop from. Now, another problem with that is, if you step in, even if you do hit him with a shortened chop, you got no footwork left to support your follow-up blow. Whereas if you had done just a simple pivot, bang, here, you'd have the step in to support that next shot. So it's always good to be conservative about your use of forward stepping. So once again, that technique is lot fun, Pak Chang, and headbutt. So at speed, that's going to look like this. One more time. Okay. Next, I'm going into a triple elbow attack. So from my low foot, I'm going to become a trap here. Now, unlike the last technique, I do have to step in on the first syllable, because if I elbow with no step, obviously I'm not going to get anywhere. So what I need to do is, in order to support my technique, I do have to step in with the inward elbow. Then I'm coming across and then bracing. Right? So once again, slow motion. I'm coming across with the Pai Jang, Song Jang, bracing, and Pai Jang for a third one. Okay? At speed, that's going to look like this. One more time. Okay. Next is going to be what we call loising Y footwork, which means inside line facing, with tanda, which means palm up block and punch. So from the foot, I'm going to take a step and face and give a tan punch. Then I'm stepping forward, pak chang to the throat, and that follow-up headbutt, which you might think I use excessively, but in my opinion, in that close quarter fighting, that headbutt's really good. And for those of you Wing Chun buffs who might sit back and say, well, there's no headbutt in Wing Chun. If you think real hard about the Buji form, there is sort of a scooping motion and raising motion, which can be interpreted as a headbutt. Okay, now going back into it, from this position, once again from the foot, step and face, step in, and headbutt. At speed, that's going to look like this. One more time. One more time. Okay. Now, next I'm going into what's called Lai Sao. Now, Lai Sao is not a home disinfectant. It's a pulling and trapping into a kick. So what I'm doing, please, cut the laughter over there. Now, from here, I'm coming in with a double pull into a kick. This pulls Jeff's arm to full extension, and I kick the knee. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is skip in with what we call Mo Yin Gyep, which is shadowless kick or invisible kick. In this case, I'm going to skip in and knee the body. Now, he's too close to kick here, so using a technique from the pull form, I'm going to thrust his arm forward like a plunger, kind of like a pull, so that puts his leg to kicking distance, and then I can come in with my trap and hit. So in a way, you're kind of manhandling him. What you're doing is you're bringing him in, you're going kick, skip, kick, and then him. Okay, so once again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in and pull him in with Lai Sao, Jing Gyep. Jump in, Mo Yin Gyep. Then I'm going to push him back to kick distance, and then plant trap hit. Okay, at speed, looks like this. Once again, it looks like this. Okay. Now the next one I'm going to do is a waist trap, which is built off the Jeep Sao motion of the Chum Kyu form. Now here, if I feel Jeff's elbow kind of like out a little too much on his time, I see a gap there. You probably can't see it, but I can see a gap. Now what I'm going to do is step forward and trap him around the waist. Then I come in here and attack. This will bend him backwards. Then I can usually follow this one up with an elbow attack or with a knee. So here I go from the roll. I'm just going to step in, hit, drop the elbow, another hit, or knee. Okay. So at speed, that one looks like this. Okay, and one more time. At speed, that looks like this. Alright. Okay, next I'm going into Bu Sao, which is thrusting hand or shooting hand. Now from the bottom, my Fuk Sao is going to shoot. What I'd like to do is I'd like to shoot right into the eyes. But Jeff will be a little bit too aware to allow me to do that. So what he's going to do instead is he'll do his own matching Bu Sao to stop me. Most Wing Chun guys will have the smarts to do that. Then at that point, what I'll do is step up with my heavy leg and give a punch, and then scoop him open and hit the body here. So once again, here's how it's going to look. What I do is from the low foot, shoot Bu, and Jeff matches me, Bu for Bu. I step in, pull punch, and then scoop open. Right? So at speed, that's going to look like this. And once again, it's going to look like this. Okay. Next one we're going into is called Chang Dai Jian, or low spade palm, into a neck break motion. So from the low foot, what I do is trap and spin my hit down to the body, attacking the ribs. Then I slip up right around his shoulder blade and step in and hit with a motion like this. And you might say, well, where does that come from in Wing Chun? I don't recognize that. Well, if you know Bong and Wu, it's not that far a jump to take your Bong and Wu and apply it as a neck breaking motion. Okay, so what that looks like here is to go La, Chang Dai Jian, and then Seong Ma, which is advancing stance, into the motion. So at speed, that's going to look like this. Okay. All right, next I'm going into what's called seung lap sao, or double lap. This one would probably show better on the other side, so we'll switch to this side. So now you know that my low foot is here on the right. So from this position, I go into a double grab, boom, outward knee strike. From there, I drive him back the same way, kick the knee, plant trap hit. Now, if you recognize the pole form, or if you know the pole form, you recognize that a lot of times we do what's called biu guan, or thrusting pole. Well, not often are you going to use a pole in street fighting, or even in sticky hands practice. But what does happen, as I was showing, was that on occasions, you'll get your partner's hand fully straightened. And he's too close to kick, see? So what you do is use it like a thrust of the pole, and then you can kick him and plant trap hit. So at speed, what that's going to look like is this right here. I'm going in, double grab knee, and then kick, plant trap hit. One more time. I'm going in, double grab knee, kick, and then plant trap hit. Let me do that again and kick the other leg. Okay, once again, that's going to look like, at speed, I'm going in, knee, kick, plant trap hit. And one more time, at speed, I'm going in, I'm going knee, kick, plant trap hit. Right? Now the seung lap sao can also be used, let's do it on this side here. Now seung lap sao can also be used to pull a guy off balance and off to the side and sweeping across and then bang using the tan sao as a strike. Now in Siu Lim Tao, you know, when we go bong to tan, we really whip that tan. You can actually hear it, whip. Maybe you can't hear it, but I can hear it. Wait. Well, anyway, okay, you actually have a whip of the hand, that bong, tan, bong, tan. Now that whip creates a sort of a power, it's a heavy hand. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm pulling him across, hitting him through with what we call gyung jiku, ginger finger fist, ginger fist. And then I'm dropping that thing down, bang, heavy on the back of his neck. Could follow up with the old elbow that we did earlier. Okay, so once again, slow-mo. I'm coming in here, pulling him across, whip, drop, and elbow. All right, at speed, we're going to look like this. Okay, one more time at speed. I'm coming across, 1 minute, whip, down, and drop. All right. Okay, the last technique I'm going to show from the high foot, or rather from the low foot. The last technique I'm going to show from the low foot is a chicken wing, sort of an arm lock. Now what I'm going to do here is go into the grab, lift the elbow, slip my hand through, and actually take a walk behind him and go into the lock. Okay? Now, how that looks again is from the low foot, I grab, lift, and I slip my hand through, and I step behind him and bring him into a lock and control the neck. Right? So at speed, that's going to look like this. One more time. I'm going in, and I'm going here. Now you got to be careful when you try this, because what could happen is when you go for this block, Jeff could hit me there, or as I'm going through, Jeff could then turn around and put it right back on me, and then I'd be in trouble. So you got to be careful on that one. All right. Next we're going to go into what I call response chain techniques. In other words, a technique that is first pulled off just as is with no defense on his part. Then the technique with him responding back and hitting me back. Then my way of responding to his counterattack, and so on. So we're going to use one of the techniques that I showed earlier, the lap fan sao technique with the response chain. So from position, what's going to happen here initially is, you remember the attack was pivot, hit, and headbutt. So if Ricardo does not defend, obviously that's what happens. He gets hit with the first shot, the second shot, and the third shot. Now, if Ricardo has the sensitivity and the reaction to get his hand up in time, here, he can stop me with Wu Sao and then turn around and punch me back and re-punch me again. So at speed, that's going to look like this. Now, at the same time, if Ricardo has the presence of mind to get his Wu Sao up, but not to counterattack quickly enough, from here, I might do what we call Jiao Sao, or running hand to attack, and then retrap and hit again. So what could happen here is that his block stops me, I run, and then I come in a second time and go for the shot. Now, Ricardo could also respond back to me on that one. If, for example, here, even though I got my first shot in, he might not just stand there and let me hit him a second time. He might try to punch me. So that's where my jeep saw comes in. Now, another thing that Ricardo might do to turn it around on me is to use an arm breaking technique that comes from the wooden dummy technique, or the wooden dummy form. And that would be for him to go from the Wu Sao position right into Gum Jiang, put pressure on my elbow with his shoulder, at the same time striking the groin area with the Gum Jiang down low. Right. Now, another thing that could happen is that after I feel Ricardo's Wu Sao stop me, I might change the line and try and punch him on a new line. In here, boom, and then come in and hit again. Now, if Ricardo senses that happening, he might then respond to my line change with his own line change, Bong Sao, and then turn around and lock punch me and recap and hit again. So I'd be foiled there. Right, as an example of what we call the leakage attack of Wing Chun, meaning a technique that leaks in when an opponent is in good structure and thinks he has you defended against, would be here. If Ricardo were to stop my first shot with the Wu Sao and cope with my line change with his own Bong Sao, without altering his structure in any way, but just by making a subtle adjustment of my own elbow, matching his Bong Sao for Bong Sao, I can do what's called a leakage attack, moving in to attack the body through the gap between the Wu Sao and the Bong, then re-attack here. So we call this a leakage attack because it seems as though Ricardo's got the leak plug, but I leak in. Okay? So what you do is try to feel that the opponent, or rather, when you feel that your opponent has too much strength in his position, and you feel like you're whipping a dead horse, what you can do is make a subtle change of your own position and then go on in to attack. Right? That particular leakage attack comes from the Chum Kiu form. For those of you that know the Chum Kiu form, there's a part in it where we do a lunging Bong Sao motion. And a lot of people think that's just for using, or just for use as a block. But actually it can be used as a leakage attack. Because all I'm doing is, from my position here, is I'm doing the lunging bong, but I'm just unscrewing the hand of the bong and screwing a fist onto it and making it into a lunging attack. So at speed, that's going to look like this. One more time. So what we say in Wing Chun is, when your opponent is in a really good structured position, and he's in good structure, take a leak on him. All right, the next response chain technique we're going to practice will be the one that works from the low Chang Dai Jiang attack into the neck break. So if Ricardo does not have the sensitivity or reaction to respond correctly, what I would do would be to attack the ribs, trap, and come in this way, and going against the neck joint. So what we're doing here is we're coming in with a low hit, step in, bang. But Ricardo has the option of coming in with his own response attack. He can do what's called gang da. If I go here, he can come in and hit me. At the same time as he's blocking me, he can hit me on that open line and then retrap and hit again. So at speed, that's going to look like this. Now, knowing that Ricardo has that kind of response, I might turn around with my own response here, come in, boom, and then come in with my own hit. Let me do that one more time. So knowing that he's able to respond with the ganda, I might get that hand out of the way. Okay. Knowing that he might respond to my attack in that way with ganda, I'll come in here, hit and hit again. Now, Ricardo also has the option of coming back on me in other ways. For example, when he feels my low attack come in, he could go into the ganda, then slip into an arm lock and give me the knee shot. So at speed, that's going to look like this. Right. Another option I have when Ricardo comes in with the ganda defense against my low attack would be to come with my own Chum Kiu, then sweep that out of the way and come in with a follow-up attack. So once again, that would be here, meeting that with the Chum Kiu arm break from the second form, Hyun out, and then come in with the Pak Chan. Now, although I've hit him, and especially because in Chee Sao we don't really hit, so your opponent won't really be injured, he will respond, he will follow up. So if you meet him here, and then come in there and he tries to punch, you can make him think he's in the army and meet him with a jeep. Jeep Sao, that is. All right, another counter-attacking option that's open to Ricardo is, once he's come with the ganga and I've stopped it with the bong sao, he can use the leakage attack that I used earlier on him back on me by coming right over the top of my bong sao, defeating it with his own bong structure, and then follow up with a pak loi fan king. At speed, that's going to look like this. Now, when Ricardo does that, he's got to be careful as well, because when he comes in here and I'm in the bong structure, I can always leak up underneath as well. So he's got to watch out for that uppercut, which can be followed up. All right, everyone, that's all for now. So until next time, this is Randy Williams saying, I'm your chum, so please don't kill me. Well, got a jet now. Bye.